Thank you very much. Now we're going to move into our consent agenda, payment of bills.
Do you want the motion first?
Yeah, let's do the motion.
Discussion first.
Do the motion.
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois hereby takes the following action on the listed consent agenda items. A, approves payment of the bills as presented and listed in section Roman numeral 6, capital A. B, approves minutes from the meetings held on September 11, 2012, public hearing, September 11, 2012, regular, open and closed, and September 25, 2012, committee of the whole, open and closed. Approves submission of the annual application for recognition of schools 2012-2013. D, approves the amended calendar for school year 2013-2014.
Have a second?
Second.
Second by Tim Walsh. All right, we'll start with bills first.
Tim McGinnis has a couple questions
Yeah,
that were submitted.
There were a couple questions. One was about some transportation for cross-country. We did have a couple of bills in there for Illinois Central. That was cross-country to Lyons Township, but it was two different trips. One was the girls, one was the boys. And it was to the two different campuses at Lyons Township. The other travel expenses we had for cross-country was an AmeriCoach travel, which was to an invitational in Peoria. And so instead of making the kids ride on a school bus to Peoria, they hire a coach bus, and the cost of that is split between the cross-country, the boys and the girls cross-country budgets.
So it's offset, it's not out of the transportation.
Correct. There was a question about a bill for Scholastic for Read 180. That was for the additional licenses that we purchased. That was part of the $25,000 that the board approved for additional interventions, and we used part of that money for some salary increases, and part of it went for these additional licenses for Read 180.
The question really was, Pam talked about it last meeting. Does somebody want to tell us what Read 180 is?
It's a research-based reading intervention for the students all of the freshman students that are in extended period reading class. So they have a regular English class, but they have a period and a half of reading, and they go through a cycle of doing different activities, but they're all on the computer program, which advances them through, and we've had really good success with it. And then the sophomores, we started using that program last year for our sophomores as well, who continue. And with the transfer students, we had so many transfer students coming in with reading scores that were low enough that we surpassed the amount of licenses, and you have to have a license per child. So we needed to get more in order to serve their needs.
So we purchased those with the addition of the section of CAP to help with our ACT interventions. Thanks, Kim.
All right, Tim.
There was also a question regarding a payment to one of the referees for the Fenwick football game. When we're paying officials that are officiating RB sports, it goes through the the education fund, through the athletic budgets. When we're paying referees or officials for outside rentals, it goes through the operations and maintenance fund. So I think the question was, why was it being charged to operations and maintenance? There's a separate line item in operations and maintenance that picks up the cost of the outside rentals.
Originally, I was wondering why we were paying for Fenwick, Marby, and referee, and then I realized it was
but
charged. So if it's charged to the O&M fund, somebody rented our facility. I didn't know Fenwick played here, or Marby.
Yes, they just rented our stadium for one game, I
Well, that's
believe.
fine. So
Yeah.
but in the future, if we see it's the O&M fund, you rented it out, that's why it's not an RB team.
Right, it's the same
Okay.
with the pro
Yeah.
football team.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Okay, Tim.
And the final question was on a refund on some fees. There was a fairly sizable refund to one parent, and that was the result of the fact that it was 3 students that were involved in that, which is why it was so high.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tim. All right, any other questions on bills? Okay, how about minutes?
I just had one question. The redactions
on the closed minutes, that seems very helpful. Do we have a process in place where, after we approve the minutes or somewhere, we say, we can also kind of approve that redaction so that we don't have to go back and look at all the redactions?
I think we talked about this, that when we were receiving some of the recommendations on the redactions, that Mary Ann was keeping a file with those redactions, so that when we reviewed them, unless somebody had comments, because we received those, that when we review them in 18 months when they're up, we would use the recommended redactions that we received at this time. I don't think you can formally vote or approve the redactions at this time.
No, it's just for your information. And when I'll put the packet together, you'll still see them. This way you don't have to keep going through the process.
So then what you're suggesting, if we saw something that we thought didn't need to be redacted, we might talk about it now so that we don't have to,
That would
ideally,
be,
we wouldn't have to visit it then.
that's the board's decision, of how the board wants to handle that.
Is that what
Because
you have in your
technically, you
mind?
don't, I hate
Well,
thinking.
we talk, we're supposed to review them every 6 months.
Right.
So one suggestion was when we do the 6-month review, we look at the group of the last 6 months and see if anybody has any comments. And we don't release them for the year and a half, but at least they'd be more fresh in people's mind. So it might, now that we're getting caught up, the next 6-month annual review, we could look at the ones that we've marked since then, and then every 6 months, we could just look at that group and decide then. That'd probably be the most efficient way to do it, because we have to do it in a closed session anyway.
Right. I was just wondering if we had set some mechanism so we're not being redundant in the work.
Tim was kind enough to submit the redactions, so Mary Ann's
Yeah.
been keeping that log for us.
Okay. Any other questions on minutes? All right, next one is the application for recognition of schools.
This is just a general comment, there were some general questions, but it's an annual report that the school district submits.
Marianne?
Some of this is compliance issues that we have to submit annually to the state. Some of it is just upkeep and maintenance of, and part of good faith of just making sure we are in compliance with school code. And then there's new additions to the annual recognition, which is one of the last bullets that talks about principal and assistant principal survey. You had to be a registered evaluator. Pam and I had to complete that training before September 1st and had to submit our certificates and approval with the state. So that's already been verified for both of us. So that's why that's checked off. And then there was a question on the TSA and TSN, and Mary Ann has an extra copy if anybody wants to see it. I think she passed it out.
It's TSA and TS.
TSN is for the paraprofessionals, and all those are now updated, as the report was updated by the state. TSA is state approved, TSAN is state and NCLB approved. And all of our paraprofessionals are state and/or NCLB approved, minimum being state, and above and beyond is NCLB.
So what are you offering then? Was that page updated, or?
Yes, it was updated. So Mary Ann has copies if anybody wants to see an updated copy of the
I'd like to see a copy.
recognition.
Since we're signing off on it.
Any other questions on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
You skipped one, Kevin.
What's your
What
question?
was the other question?
On page 77, item number 3 says that we're representing the evaluation of principals, assistant principals conducted on or after September 1, 2012. Use student growth as a significant factor in evaluating ratings.
Excuse me.
I don't know
Is this the new
that, we've seen that, but we did have
That's what Tim has to
one
say.
of the people's agreement, and it doesn't have student, it doesn't have this kind of criteria, what's
Right.
required in the evaluation. So I'm trying to know how we can.
So we had to complete the training by September 1st of 2012. I just said that Pam and I completed the training and are certified and approved, and now we started the evaluation on Pam, so when I bring a contract renewal for Pam, it will have the 30/70 breakdown in my evaluation of Pam that I have to do now under state guidelines. So that's not something that the board would necessarily need to see, but if the board wanted to see a certificate of compliance that we completed the training and
No,
the tool.
I'm asking,
I don't know if
it's
I'm
not a
under-
question of whether you're training, it's a question of whether the evaluation criteria for our principal and assistant principals are relying on the student growth as a significant factor. that it's got to be at least 25%.
Yes.
So we've never seen anything that shows there's an evaluation process that includes 25% of the factors to be based on student growth.
I can give you a copy of that. The board was given a copy of the previous administrative evaluation tool
Right.
at my mid-year, and now the new tool is was just given out this year on the first day of school. So if the board wants to see.
But we've
a copy-
seen yours.
It's not
We
the
haven't
same.
seen the other, and again, I just want to make sure that the last time we were given anything shown, and it was only Pam's, we didn't meet this criteria.
Right.
So something's changed.
This is
since
the new legislation that
Okay.
went into effect September 1st of 2012, last month.
I
So
understand
the
that.
new tool, we have the new tool from
And
the
you've
state.
adopted the standard,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
teacher,
By
principal, assistant principals know
October 1st, I
about
met with
it.
all of the
Okay.
assistant principals and administrators. We used the tool to get their professional growth plan, and we decided what they would use for
Okay.
their student growth data that was relevant to their area. And actually, anybody in the public can go on through the public site in order to see that we've done our training, because it's registered there for everybody to see, so, and we're in compliance.
It wasn't the training that I was,
Yeah.
it was whether we adopted standards that meet this criterion for
We
all of our
did.
principal and
Yeah,
assistant.
the board doesn't have to
Okay.
adopt, it's just it's state law now. You can't get rid of a principal or assistant principal, and you have to evaluate them based on this new criteria.
Okay,
And you have to be a certified evaluator under this new tool for the state.
thank you.
But is some of your question, though, on student growth? On the outcome of student growth?
Well, we don't know what the factors are. We've never been shown them or told what they are.
Right,
So I'm just saying, my immediate concern is the board's got to see this report, so it's filed, and I presume the state requires it, so we actually know whether it's accurate or not. And this one particular item, the last time we were told something about any of our principal or assistant principal, it did not have these kind of factors in there. So we have not been updated. I don't know if we're going to be updated or if their feeling is we shouldn't, but, again, at least they're telling us that they've been adopted. I take their word for it.
Yeah, and might the student growth indicators be part of our outcomes as a board? Because we have indicators for our students or targets that we want to hit, student success, would those match? Are you asking that also?
Well, I'd be hopeful that they tie to that, but
Some
nobody's
of them
volunteering
are.
that
So it's the
information.
Right.
data we're looking at, not
Exactly.
the certification. the
Well, I
data.
figured when you and Tim were done talking, you'd let me give you where we're at.
'Cause if
We're
you-
tying it exactly to the 8 indicators that the board's using for the academic and school culture. So the 30% will be measured on everything we reported from AP to attendance to the ACT scores, all of that. Is it going to be, her performance growth as well as her assistant principals will all be tied exactly to the academic and school culture performance indicators. And then as we set those targets in November and December on the operational calendar, that will give you an idea of what's on her evaluation going forward. So as you remember, when we first started this process, I said, well, the board should set kind of district goals, and then my plan should be to implement structures to achieve those goals, and then it trickles down to Pam and how she's going to monitor it on even a smaller level, and then our assistant principals. So it's definitely going to all be aligned to that.
And so this even includes Dave Sibley, who's a dean of students. So some of his student growth goals, there isn't much on those performance indicators that covers what he does in his job. So we decide the targets that are related to his job, which will show that student culture, like Kevin was talking about, that those things are changing. So it could be reduction in the number of suspensions. They're doing, so you to tie it to the job duties that person has as well. So, yeah, and we've done all of that.
Okay. Any other questions on this? All right, next one is school calendar 2013-14 amendment.
So one of the things, I think the reason the state changed this, we used to be able to give like the plan and that Explore practice ACT tests, which are going to be actually used in some of the growth analysis on the principal and assistant principal evaluations. They used to pay for that test. Now they will only pay for it if you give it before November 7th. And for us to do that test like we were doing it in April, that's when we used to kind of do like a mass testing day. The seniors were off, the juniors were taking the state test, and we'd have the sophomores and the freshmen doing the Explore and the plan, which are practice ACT tests. the state will no longer pay for those if they're not done before November 7th, and it's about a $10,000 expense that we didn't have budgeted for. So really, all it does is shift the testing days to November now. And in the springtime, when our juniors are taking a test, we'll have an alternate schedule and an alternate setting for them set up so that they could take the ACT in one part of the building, the rest of the building will be having regular school. But to do that, we need to have a half a day of school and a senior college day. So we called West 40 to what it would need to be done to amend the calendar, and those documents are in there. And she said that we were told by West 40 the board should approve that it's doing a half a day amended calendar for November 7th.
Based on that, I amend the motion. D, approves the amended school calendar for calendar year 2012-2013,
Okay.
and not as it reads 2013-2014.
Tim, do you have any issue with that amendment?
No.
Okay. All right, any questions on this calendar?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're saving 10 grand, but we're having the students take the test 4 school months earlier than they would have, right?
Pam, you want to talk to that?
What's the- I
Absolutely.
mean, that's the other
When we
implication.
showed you the e-pass data, so we're looking from Explore to Explore, what happens is we can Explore to plan to ACT. We can also take now our freshmen, they will be tested in November. They originally took the test as 8th graders in December, so it would show,
1
you
year
know,
of
the
growth.
1 year of growth, the end of their 8th grade year, and you know, not quite halfway through their freshman year. So that's kind of a pure year. Same thing with the sophomores. They'll be, you know, a little bit out of sync this first year. But the reason that the state changed it is because of the students' performance data that is required for all administrators now. You need that data in time so that you can use it in the summative. When we test everybody in April, you don't get the data until too late in the year or in the summer. So you can't use it in the evaluation system. That's why they're going to only fund tests that are given at a time in the year that it can, you know, be useful for you to see the growth and to use it in the evaluation system. So it's really not going to be a problem for us. The juniors, we give them a practice ACT. We normally gave that in December, so we're moving it up, you know, by about a month. It's not going to really negatively impact them. So we did a full practice ACT anyway. So it really fits pretty well for us. And
Plus, they're just practice tests.
They're
They're
all-
nothing with state
yeah.
significance, so if anything, it's just growth indicators for us. to
It's, yeah,
track
so
their
from
progress
now
till they're
on,
juniors and
next
seniors.
year, everybody has to go to this system. Not everybody was as flexible and willing to shift as quickly as we were. So it really is going to be the way of the future, so we're just doing it this year.
And did they make some kind of commitment you're going to get the results sooner, though?
Pardon me?
Is there some kind of commitment as part of this, so you'll actually get the results sooner?
Yes,
Oh.
yes. We'll be getting the results.
Oh, that's good.
And the
think-
hope is that you can also change your instruction. If you see anything that really necessarily needs to be done, you can put some interventions in place sooner and before the school year's over.
We
Otherwise,
think the
it's
state
too late.
moved this up because of the new evaluation plan,
Mm-hmm.
having the 30-day, or the 30/70 in the evaluation, because all principals have to be evaluated by before March 1st, that your ACT data from the state test and stuff doesn't come into the following fall. So they put in this statute that you have to evaluate people and have 30% data growth, but they don't give you all the results till after March 1st. So we think that's why they started to put this in November, so that you at least get some growth between those tests and the ACT test on a kind of like a cycle that will extend throughout the next year.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Mary Ann?
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Mr. Ruska?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Moon? Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes.